Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tom Dio with the Montgomery County GreenBank, the CEO. Tom, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thanks, Mark, and thanks for hosting this. This is a continuing effort on our part to connect with the board members and the common ownership communities and help them be made aware of energy efficiency opportunities and how to sort of navigate operating budgets and help bring improvements to their properties to bring both value and operating benefits to them. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we're grateful for the opportunity to have another chance to take it to the next level here. So thanks for joining this evening. I know everybody's giving some of your extra time after the end of the day to participate in this, and hopefully in an hour you'll get a lot more information that you might be able to take action on it. This webinar, I'm joined by a few people. I'm joined by Steve Morrell, Chief Investment Officer, who's actually going to do the lion's share of the presentation here. Rob Russo with Enercon Solutions, who was one of the contractors that we worked with on one of the activities we did with the common ownership communities. And Renee Pelletier, who's with Glen Manor Condominiums and who's been a participant in some of the work around their Glen Manor Condominiums, and also has been engaged with the GreenBank and Sandy Spring Bank on financing for a project they're undertaking. And we look forward to Renee giving you a sense of how boards look at this and undertake it. So as I mentioned, we've been working with common ownership communities for the last few years. We engaged with Mark some time ago with the Common Ownership Commission. And really our effort's been trying to inform and educate the communities around what the benefits of energy efficiency can be, how do you undertake those improvements, and how do you actually leverage the cost savings that come out of them and help manage your operating costs and while increasing your value and gaining the improvements they offer. And we're going to go through that today, and you'll learn more about that in much more specificity. And in that period of a couple years, we've worked on a couple projects, and a couple are underway right now, and we're working on several more, all coming off of, some of them have contacted us off of these webinars or these, we did some in-person presentations as well. So we're looking to continue and further our work with the common ownership communities. But a lot of this is going to be further explained in this presentation, so I'm not going to go deep. If Mark, you go on to the next slide real quick here. Just in terms of, I'll do a quick thing of who we are. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but then Steve's going to take it over, drive into sort of what energy efficiency looks like, what does GreenBank support look like, and then drive into the board experiences and how they've been looking at it on a particular project with Renee. And then Rob will talk about the technical assistance that they provided and how you can think about that for your condominium and think about improvements. And then we'll sort of drive all of it together and show you how you move from that technical assistance to actually undertaking the improvements, and if financing is an important part, how that can be supportive of it. So we'll go into that. So real quick, Mark, if you go on to the next slide. If you're all not aware of the GreenBank, we're the Montgomery County GreenBank. We're a nonprofit organization that was set up by the county to support the investment in clean energy finance across the county. And we support residences, we support commercial business, but our job is to take the limited resources the county gave to us, work with financial partners out there to create more flexible, available financing that various either homeowners, multifamily properties, common owners properties, commercial businesses can take advantage of to actually undertake those improvements. And often we found that the marketplace doesn't quite deliver that financing without some supports, and that's the job of the GreenBank to provide that support. We're a nonprofit. We don't have checking or savings accounts. Our job is to simply create partnerships with other financial institutions. And Steve will go more into that in terms of showing how that works. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and you can take it from here and describe our efforts and manage the presentation. So Steve, to you.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Mark, if you want to head to the next slide. We just wanted to talk a little bit about why we really would want to focus on energy efficiency with all of you on the call and the common ownership communities. And I think a lot of these are fairly obvious answers, but it's worth going over just to really figure out what is the touch point with you in energy efficiency. And for most of us, that's aging systems. As you're looking at the energy utilizing systems in your building, from heat and air conditioning to lighting to everything else, at some point there are replacements that need to be undertaken. And so the Green Bank is really here to try and think about long-term energy strategies that can be utilized to really get ahead of those kind of problems of always trying to replace certain aging systems. So the other reasons that we have to take a look at energy efficiency are also listed here, including kind of comfort of your residents, managing budgets, and really managing the types of reserves and assessments that you have utilized. And we're going to hear a little bit more about how to utilize your reserves and your assessments in kind of an energy smart strategy moving forward. But particularly now, what we see are a lot of projects that are stalled given the current environment that we're in. Buildings still have projects that need to occur, but with a position that we're at in the economy where a lot of buildings need to save the reserves that they previously had set aside for capital projects, if ongoing cash flow could potentially be a problem, these are real good reasons to look at financing for energy efficiency. And so we at the Green Bank have been working to try and come up with products, and we'll get into more details about these products, to really just be available in a recovery in a down market, so that you can think about saving the cash flow that you need for other purposes. The other piece to that is that when you take a look at energy efficiency projects, you do get energy savings from them. And so you end up paying less for a certain utility than you previously would have if you are enhancing your central plant, for example, or individual heating units within properties. And so at the Green Bank, one thing we really take a look at is what is the value of those energy savings, and can you make it greater than a debt service that you would need to pay in financing? And if your savings are greater than your debt service, then you would have a positive cash flow. And it's really a positive cash flow decision then to undergo an energy efficiency repair. And if you can add cash flow into your association's finances, then that's certainly a positive thing as well. And then, of course, the last two things mentioned here are comfort and efficiency, and within that are really health and safety as well. I think that with the COVID pandemic, we're really seeing the need for different types of air filtration measures, and thinking about those health and safety measures that have quite a bit of touch points to energy usage. And so thinking about energy efficiency with those is important too. Mark, can you head to the next slide? So we have a couple different efforts ongoing in terms of supporting common ownership communities. We do have financial products out there that are dedicated to supporting COC properties for energy efficiency measures. The first that we'll talk a little bit more about is the commercial loan for energy efficiency and renewables, or our Clear Loan, which is a loan product that we have out there with some commercial bank partners. And we're going to hear from Renee about working with Sandy Spring for this particular product. The other is our small business energy savings support, which is a fairly recent product that we put out based on COVID recovery and really trying to help unstick projects that have become stuck given the current economic conditions. And we work with City First Enterprises, who's a CDFI, part of the City First banking group, in order to utilize that product. In both cases, we treat the associations of COC properties as nonprofits, just as we would look at other nonprofit businesses. And that helps us really extend loans through these products to COC properties. At the bank, at the Green Bank, we have dedicated funds really to meet a couple different county objectives. These are on the climate objectives, but as well as meeting objectives with getting funding to COC properties as well. And so we do have familiarity with the sector. Just wanted to highlight a couple projects that we've done fairly recently that can be as examples for you of what kind of project could be done with your property. We've done replacements of full central plants, boilers and chillers, fairly costly and larger projects if you have a centrally metered building. We've done things like LED lighting conversions. Lighting conversions are actually wonderful ways to reap the benefits of energy savings. In fact, they happen to have some of the deepest discounts through the utility small business incentives. And then you get a significant amount of savings in terms of switching to LED lighting throughout common areas and other areas that the association is responsible for. As I mentioned, central plant replacement, but you can include piping with that as well if you have piping to bring heat throughout the building. And we're actually going to hear more about that with Renee, which is a wonderful story as well. And
Steve,
so,
I'm sorry. Yeah, a question came through chat from Anthony Smith. He's asking if the loan products are dependent on the size of the loan.
Yes, no, that's a good question, and we'll get more into that. We tend to do larger projects under the clear product, typically greater than $100,000, and smaller projects under $100,000 with the small business product.
Okay.
So they are separated by the amount, and we'll get a little bit more into that. The smallest that we go is $10,000 with the small business energy savings support. And really can have no limit in terms of upper limit of what we look at with the commercial loan for energy efficiency and renewables.
Thank you. And
Sure.
Tom just said a chat out to everybody with that too. Okay, thank you.
Certainly. And then just to continue going through this one slide, we do offer flexibility really to meet property objectives. And every common ownership community tends to have its own objectives that can be fairly unique based on certain circumstances. And so we try and work closely with the property association and tailor some kind of financing to be able to help with that. One example that we list here is a tailored bridge facility that we did for a property in Tacoma Park that was looking for a central plant replacement. The equity portion of what they were putting in was contingent on bridging some sales of units. And so we were able to put together a very short bridge facility that worked on a short notice period and was able to bridge that particular gap. And so we try and be flexible in terms of how each property is trying to meet its objectives as well. And the last thing, which we'll get into a little more detail later as well, in terms of our efforts to support COC properties, is a technical assistance pilot that we recently launched to really help properties learn about opportunities in energy savings and how to fund those opportunities. We did this technical assistance program with 5 properties and really worked with contractors to do technical assessments to help really long-term energy strategies. And as Tom mentioned, we benefit from having Rob Russo on the line, who's going to talk a little bit about conducting such an assessment from his perspective. So if you could go to the next slide. I will jump right into that first loan product that we were talking about, the commercial loan for energy efficiency and renewables. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but wanted to introduce it before we hear from Renee, because this product is very relevant to the types of improvements that they're making on Glen Manor building as well. So this product is available for all commercial buildings and businesses, for-profit and nonprofits. And so that does include common ownership and multifamily properties. As we talked about, this is for loans of $100,000 or greater. It really provides about 70 to 80% financing, depending on the financial condition of the association. We target 15% energy savings, and so we're looking for measures that can give you some kind of energy savings, and our benchmark is 15%, plus or minus whatever can be received out of that particular energy conservation measure, but that's really our target. These loans can go out to 12 years, so that you really get the opportunity to match those savings to the loan payment, like I was talking about earlier, try and get a cash flow positive decision to undergo a particular measure by having those savings greater than the loan payment. They're not secured by the property. And so typically in terms of security, if you're undergoing a large project, we would look for a UCC1 statement on those assets that are being replaced. And the whole idea behind this product is to offer lower rates than what you'll find in the commercial market. And so we work with various partners. We're working with Sandy Spring Bank right now, and we provide a loan loss reserve behind them, which helps them get lower rates out to you once you undergo those projects. And so the scope of what we do is all for energy efficiency, renewable measures, but we do allow for 30% of those loan proceeds to be used for other improvements. For example, if you're looking at water conservation measures, if you're looking at related improvements in order to be able to do an energy efficiency measure, for example, if you need to put in new piping, maybe you need to put in new housing for that piping. And so there's certainly associated measures that aren't really energy efficiency by themselves, but they can fall under that 30% bucket. And we utilize authorized contractors for this that are on the PEPCO list for energy savings and really are able to access those energy savings, those incentives that PEPCO has, and are really qualified to be able to provide you with that. And so let's go to the next slide. With that introduction, I want to actually turn it to Renee Pelletier, the treasurer of the Glen Manor condos, who we're working with presently, and can tell you a little bit about the experience they've gone with their improvements, and we can get back to financing those particular improvements at the tail end. So Renee, please feel free to take it over.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Good evening. My name again is Renee Pelletier. I'm doing this presentation tonight because our president, Brian Hazard, was unable to attend for personal reasons. So I'm giving his presentation. As you look at the picture before you, you will see this is part of Glen Manor condominium. The building is a 32-unit building. It's in Silver Spring, about a half a mile from the Forest Glen Metro Station. The building was built in 1955. It's brick and mortar, and it was converted to condominiums in 1974. Now, the second slide, please. Oh, that's not my slide.
I think we had a couple slides that we added in there that we didn't get downloaded. So apologies for that, Renee. I know that you had some that you wanted to talk to, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the experience in terms of what you were thinking with those slides, and we can make sure that we hit all those points.
Okay, well, first of all, there are four main areas when you prepare for a project like we had to do. Like our building, like I said, was built in 1955. It's an aging building. One of the problems that we've had in the recent years is that our HVAC physical plant needed to be retired. It was starting to cost us more money every year than it was worth, so we started looking into it. We had to work with our community. We have 32 units again, and it's a diverse community, but we all work pretty well together. And working with the community, after they went without air conditioning a couple days last summer, they agreed that perhaps it was time that we really do seriously undertake an upgrade of the system. The second part of that, of course, is going to be the financing and the benefits of the project. The finances were something that we had to address. Our reserves were not as high as we'd have liked them to be because we had just finished replacing the roof. But everyone could see what the benefits of the project were. We wouldn't have problems with heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. I bought my unit there here in 2017. And so I've only been here about 3.5 years. When I started attending the meetings back 3.5 years ago, they were already starting to talk about replacing the system. And they were getting into the planning even back then. The final thing that we'd have to do is to evaluate the proposals. But the first thing was working with the community. And that was at budget time, we worked with them and emphasized the need to increase our reserves so that we could undertake such a large project. We discussed some aspect of the project at every meeting, whether it was the cost, whether it was the type of system, if we wanted to replace it with a different type of system, when we would do it, how it would affect everyone. We took opinions of all the owners, we surveyed them, we distributed minutes of the meetings all the time so they would know if they hadn't attended a meeting, what we were talking about in order to replace the HVAC system. After that, we discussed the finances of the project early and often. And when we did that, we took a look at our resources, realized we couldn't do it. And at that point, we had heard about GreenBank, and we started looking into see what they could do for us. And the president, Brian, contacted GreenBank, and we began discussions with them on what to do. We also had to project what our budgeting was going to be. We had to project the cost. We had to look, of course, at our current financial status and, again, sources of funding. We went to Sandy Spring Bank, who we know is a partner for GreenBank, and we discussed the financing with them. At that point, we're in year 2 of this, which was 2018. We decided we'd better hire an engineer to take a look at the project and see what we needed to do and to give us an estimate of how much it would cost. The engineer did that, and we were kind of stunned by the cost when we were wondering how 32 owners could come up with that. But then again, we had assurances from GreenBank that they would help us with it, and Sandy Spring Bank seemed willing to work with us. We had to come up with an agreement in the community. We had many, many discussions. Some people at that point were stunned by the cost and wanted to back out of it. Others wanted to go a different route, but we persuaded them, and the engineering company persuaded them that this was the best use of our money, and this would be the most efficient way of heating and cooling the units and providing us with some, I guess, better cash flow because of the money savings we would be getting. We also looked at our reserve study. That's something that's very important. If you don't pay attention to reserve studies, in the end, you're going to lose. Those people who prepare them are well versed in what things cost and how long different systems last, and you have to pay attention and listen to that and start planning way ahead of time so that you're not taken by surprise. And you should have reserve studies that are 5 years or less old. Like I said, we did go to the engineering company. They drew up all sorts of plans and specifications, and we were approached by GreenBank. Steve contacted us a couple times and said, okay, can you give us the, what are they going to install so we know how energy efficient it is? And we've been back and forth between the contractors and Steve, discussing the HVAC, the chiller system, everything like that. And we also discussed with Steve and with Tom the need to redo the piping. In some places, the pipe was so thin, it was paper thin, and we often had places where the system blew out. So we really did need to replace it. When we finally came up with what we needed to do, the engineering company prepared us specifications and a bid, and we sent it out to contractors. We had 3 contractors who were interested in it. All of them were highly qualified. All of them had great reputations. The one hang-up was one was way out of our reach, and I think that's probably because they did not want to undertake such a small project. The other 2 contractors were fairly close in price, and we discussed more with them, and at that point we decided to go with one. One thing that happened, and this is going to happen when you have old buildings, is we had a surprise. We found out that there was asbestos in parts of the building, and that increased the cost of the entire project significantly. So it's good to hire professionals who can help you and take a look at what you've got and take a look at things you don't anticipate, so that when you do get these bids, they can help you evaluate them and make sure that you're going in the right direction. Now, part of our problem too is that the building is old, as I've said. The fan coils or convectors, whatever you want to call them, in each individual unit, some of them are as old as the building. They're 65 years old. They need to be replaced because they leak. This is where GreenBank helps again, because they indicated that they could offer the homeowners assistance with financing when they replace the convectors. So we obtained bids for the convectors. We came down with some bids, and we have provided our owners with the GreenBank website for financing information regarding energy-related upgrades in the home, which would include, in this case, the convectors. All in all, our experience with GreenBank and with Sandy Spring Bank has been very good. They've been very positive. They have backed us up, and we're very pleased. Another thing I need to really emphasize is that you need to have board members who are going to stay focused and persistent to ensure that the project's completed successfully. In our case, our president, Brian Hazard, has been extremely focused and very persistent in seeing this through. He has worked 80 hours a week trying to get this project off the ground, and it's now off the ground, and we do have contractors in the building. And we could not have done it had we not had the backing of GreenBank and the backing of Sandy Spring Bank. And that's about all I can tell you about our project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee. Really appreciate that. And just to echo what Renee is saying on the converse, Glen Manor has been a really good partner for us in Sandy Spring as well. I think that the type of planning that Renee is talking about is very important. And at the point that we get to financing, Glen Manor, Brian and Renee were just really prepared for everything that we needed on our side. And so it actually makes financing very easy and to move smoothly. And so I'm sure people will have lots of questions for you, Renee, but we'll go ahead and come back to those at the end. Mark, if you want to head to the next slide, I'd like to actually turn this over to Rob Russo with Enercon Solutions. Enercon Solutions conducted one of the energy audits for us in the technical assistance program that we recently launched. And I was hoping that Rob could talk a little bit about their experience with that, some of the conservation measures that they proposed, and give the audience a good flavor about what kind of work product can come out of such an assessment. Rob?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Rob Russo. The company is Enercon Solutions. We're based here in Bethesda. Our role in this technical assistance effort was to perform what's called a level 1 energy audit. And there's 3 levels of energy audits. Level 1 is very simple walkthrough of the building and interview of the building management and engineering staff. A level 2 audit is a little bit more detailed, going into specific systems and doing some sub-metering. And a level 3 audit is when you get to that point and you know exactly what you want, bringing in an engineering company to do a detailed design. I think that's what happened with Renee's project. But our building was a 72 unit building, 6-story, built in 1974, brick and block. It was, fortunately, it was rather efficient to begin with. And I think the first thing that any of the COC board members should do before they even think about energy efficiency is benchmark your building. You can do that very easily by just collecting all your gas and electric bills, or oil if you're still using oil, and coming up with a benchmark score. GreenBank knows how to do that. There's plenty of resources online to help you do that. But basically it gives you the number of energy units per square foot of your building. And in our case, the building we looked at had an energy score of 70, which means it's more efficient than 70% of the buildings in its category. So there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for energy efficiency. If you benchmark your building and you find it has a score of 30, you know you've hit gold, and you can really dig and find a lot of opportunities to save. So benchmarking is something you can do without bringing in an engineering company. And I suggest that everybody does it right away to see how your building stacks up. What we did after we did the benchmarking, we walked through the building. Well, first we met with the building managers, the property manager, the board, chairman of the board of the condominium board, and got some basic information on the number of tenants, the bill history. And then we went there and we did a quick walkthrough to identify specific systems that we thought would be good candidates for energy efficiency. We focused in on hot water system, hot water boilers, which could be replaced. We identified in each of the units, they have terminal air handler units, which are fed by central heating and cooling water from a central plant. We realized that there was opportunities to improve the efficiency of those air handler units in each apartment. The common spaces were centrally ventilated with one air handler, which used 100% outside air. We found opportunities to reduce the amount of outside air by what's called enthalpy control, by bringing in fresh air, excuse me, it had 100%, what am I trying to say here? Yes, it had 100% outside air, so all of the air was being heated and cooled, and that wasn't necessary. You could reduce the operation of the chiller and heating by bringing in only the air you need to meet the minimum requirements for heating and cooling. That's called an air side economizer. And then we installed we looked at installing variable speed pumps on the domestic hot water distribution system, which we're currently operating all at 100% capacity, even though the building wasn't demanding domestic hot water 100% of the time. So water was just, the pumps were just running unnecessarily. The board seems to like some of the ideas. I think they're going to take initiative to do the hot water boilers and the air side economizer. Steve, have you heard any more about that?
Yes, no, so in this case, the board is meeting, I think it's actually in 2 weeks to go through the study and to figure out which measures they want to move forward with.
Okay, so we were able to give the board an idea of the cost and savings of a number of these opportunities, which the GreenBank is interested in financing. So our role was really to come up with indicative pricing and indicative savings, which would allow the condominium board to begin discussions with the GreenBank on their financing products. I think with that, I'll just take any other questions that you have.
Great, thank you, Rob. Really appreciate that. And again, just to echo Rob, it was very helpful to have the energy audit conducted and to really be able to give this property a feeling of what type of measures could be undertaken. If we go to the next slide, Mark, we can show some of the hard work that Rob put into this to really identify some of those energy conservation measures for the property and the value that could be obtained from savings and what the general cost should be from for those particular measures. And this slide and the next few really dive into a lot of numbers, which we could spend a great time on, but just for purposes of brevity, I'll run through them fairly quickly, and then I think everybody will have access to the slides so you can look at the numbers a little more deeply. But this just shows the two products that we were talking about earlier, the small business product and the clear product, and how they could help really address these specific energy conservation measures. And so these are the measures that Rob was speaking about, from the lighting conversions to the AHU coils, really a couple different ones to think about in terms of cost versus savings. And so certainly two of the highest savings measures that we saw out there were the lighting and the economizer measures. And so if the property takes a look and says, okay, well, we'll look at undergoing the two best energy savings measures here. We put together a bit of some indicative terms in terms of financing under a product, the small business product, which has rates of 3 to 5%, terms 3 to 5 year terms. And you would really end up producing a monthly positive cash flow of a significant amount, almost $600, meaning that the savings that you would get would exceed the debt service by $557. And so with a 4% interest rate and a 5-year term, it actually turns out to be a very positive decision to undergo those particular measures. And alternatively, on the right, we take a look at both of all of the measures together through a longer clear loan, 12 years, as we mentioned. And this one is at a 5.75% rate. And you get an even larger monthly positive cash flow out of that, given the extension of term of almost $660. So if you want to head to the next slide, back one, yep. Just to go over some of the specifics of the small business energy savings support product. Like we mentioned, this is a newer product that we put out there to really address the market cap of projects that have been stalled, perhaps energy systems and other capital projects that you've been thinking about but haven't moved forward given the economy and the pandemic. This product can really address those on the smaller scale from $10,000 up to $150,000. We can look at larger projects, but we tend to use the clear product for that. Terms up to 5 years and rates between 3 and 5%. The main difference that you will see in rates in terms of moving from this product to the other product are really rates between 4 and 6%. And that's because you're going out a lot longer than 5 years. Some of those loans that you can get under the clear product can go out to 12 years. We see a lot between 8 and 10. And so the rates tend to be higher than this 3 to 5% listed here, but still lower than you would find in the commercial market. And so these are the terms of the small business energy savings support. The idea, though, when we take a look at any kind of energy conservation measure coming either through technical assistance or just a question that you have, is to really figure out what's the best way to maximize those savings relative to the debt service. And so a lot of the function of what product I fall under into is a bit of a back process that we make sure to work out with the GreenBank so that we can provide some of the best options to you. So if you head to the next slides, talk a little bit about process. So if you're starting to think about these kinds of questions and you're starting to undergo the process that Renee was talking about, the benchmarking that Rob was talking about, really one of the best places to go is to just reach out to us at the GreenBank. Our contact information is going to be at the end, but you can also just reach us generally at info@mcgreenbank.org, and you can start scoping some potential projects. We do work with contractors such as Rob and can provide a contractor recommendation if you're looking for someone to scope a bit of the project. As Renee mentioned, there's also the route of working with an engineering group to really think through the full-fledged scope that you would need to start gathering bids. And so we work closely with contractors to make sure that they understand the energy incentives that are out there and the financing strategies, either through the GreenBank or others. And so if you're looking to just start in this process, here are a couple of things that you could collect for an initial phone call or a meeting to really think about the goals of the building systems. These are your utility bills, so we can benchmark where you're at with your utility bills, the building characteristics in terms of square footage, residences, whether you're master metered or common area only metered, and what kind of association you have. Mark, if you can head to the next slide. A couple other specific questions that you may have as you're thinking of where to go. What if your systems are in immediate repair? If you have contractors that you're already working with, if you know a system is at the end of its life or about to break, this is also something that we can help with in terms of financing. And so we encourage you to reach out to contact us about that. If you're looking to form a long-term energy strategy, you can go through the process that Rob mentioned to really help get there. And that's starting with benchmarking, thinking about some of the long-term projects you have. And certainly the older the building and the older your systems are, the more possibilities of certain measures that you can put in there to take a look at. And then finally, how do you calculate energy savings? Again, we work with energy performance contractors, and we ourselves look at energy savings just to figure out what you can get out of that. Mark, if we head to the last slide. Here's our contact information. Again, we encourage everybody to reach out. We'll hopefully be able to answer some questions now in the remaining time that we have, but really feel free to reach out for any specific questions or any specific projects that you're starting to look at. You can reach Tom or I over email as well as our phones, and you can also head to our website to take a look at some general information that we have. And the one last thing I'll mention as we have this last slide up is I do encourage everybody to take a look at the website if specifically you're interested in solar. which we didn't get too much of a time to talk about here, but there are great opportunities with a lot of buildings to look at on-site solar to offset some of your utility costs. We do have products that we're working on presently to address on-site solar, and we can talk a little bit more in the Q&A, but otherwise feel free to head to our website or reach out and we can give you further information. So Mark, I'll stop there and turn it back to you.
Okay, and
Hey,
I would,
if I could just add one other component to this, I think that was, well, on the tail end there on the process piece, I just want to emphasize, the reason we and Renee looked at having certain energy contractors part of this. We mentioned Rob being approved by PEPCO and its energy savings program. I think one of the things that the energy performance contractors bring on top of the idea of how to get to those savings is they also very much understand the utilities and the utility incentive programs that can also bring other resources to projects and help offset some of the costs of the project. So, I think our effort was to bring the energy performance contractors out there, have the communities understand what the outcomes could be for energy improvement and what the various resources could be to be brought to that, including the utility resources as well as ours. So, there's a great value add in the combination of all those activities. So, Steve, I just wanted to bring that forward. So.
okay, and then I wanted to add on the solar. Don't forget to, when you reach out to GreenBank, also reach out to DEP, Environmental Protection, because they'll also partner and assist on that one. As far as, we've got some questions here. As far as the presentation, we should have this thing downloaded and clipped and up into the system by the end of the week. You'll have the MP4 and then also have the PowerPoint if we can get the couple of missings we were just finding out about with Renee's slides. I'll have everything put up. You'll see it on the CCOC website under the training and webinar section, which is the top tab on the left-hand side. Got a question. Have you performed a replacement of a landscaping water sprinkler system for an HOA or condominium association?
Thank you for the question. We have not done that just by itself. Every transaction that we do needs to have some kind of energy savings or be involved in clean energy in some respect. Again, when we're taking a look at larger capital projects that tend to have a couple different things under the bucket, there are sometimes things that are not purely energy efficiency. And if they're not greater than 30%, we can take a look at those. So it's not that we couldn't do a project that includes that, but we wouldn't do that just by itself.
Okay. I just answered, I believe, Julia's question. It'll be posted up on the website. We have another one. In my research, solar cost of setup takes many, many years to be a profitable scenario. What is your opinion?
Yeah, this is a great question and appreciated it because I think that we could do an entire webinar dedicated to solar, but we don't really have the time right now. You're certainly right. And there's two ways that we take a look at financing solar. One is as a building association, you can buy a system outright. Whether you're spending reserves to purchase it or financing it, it's a system that you buy, you put on your roof, and you own. And the payback on that does tend to be fairly slow. The other alternative is to work with a developer, a third-party developer, through what's called a power purchase agreement, a PPA. In a PPA system, the third-party developer is doing all the upfront investment. So your upfront cost is zero, and then you would pay a PPA price to that developer who owns the system and basically rents your roof to be able to have it up there. And so if you're looking at solar and potentially want zero upfront investment, then the PPA route is one way to go. And that's the financial product that we're working on presently. You can find on our website. If instead you're looking to finance a system outright, up front, then that is going to be a slower payback, but one that you would be able to get 100% of the benefits as soon as you purchase the system. Our Clear product is one that can help finance that. So 2 ways to take a look at financing a system, one with upfront costs and one without.
Okay. And
so just to add to that, given the condominiums are nonprofits, they're a little bit in terms of being able to access some of the benefits that solar. There's a tax credit that comes with the solar that could be up to 26%, but given the association is a nonprofit, it's very hard for them to monetize that, which is why I think the product that Steve was talking about, the PPA, allows for actually the organizations to access that through the financing of a third party. So, but, you can still do it on your own, but losing that 26% does stretch it out a little bit further in order to get to those benefits.
okay, I'm going to switch over to Jay over at Leisure World for just a moment. She's got her hand up. Jay, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
I'm so sorry, that was an inadvertent.
Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, back over. Can an HOA or condominium association do a project for an individual townhome, a single family home, or development level, or must it be a condo or common building? If you're, I can do this one. If you're talking about for GreenBank, the loans they're talking about right now are for the association. They're not talking about doing financing of this type for an individual. That's a different type of loan package. You would need to talk to them individually about, individual financing and packages, which they were working on doing that type of thing for the homeowner, but not for the scope of work you're talking about. They were talking about doing some internal replacement of refrigerator, freezer, HVAC, if it was an internal unit, that type of thing, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Tom? He's asking about solar panels on the roof. If the homeowner wanted to do the solar panels, will GreenBank do it? Would
So
the
it depends
loan,
on,
yeah, the loan package.
it depends on the structure, right? If it's a townhome that has, fee simple ownership, even though it's got common walls, then you can put the solar on your own unit, and then they could use we have another product for homeowners called Clean Energy Advantage, which they could take a loan out with that in order to support the installation of solar panels. If it's a common area roof, then they would have to work with the association and figure out a method to provide a more common area solar array, which then the individual unit owners could participate through buying, shares in that. So there's a different strategy depending on the underlying.
These are fee simple.
Yeah, so if they're fee simple, they could install it on their, provided the HOA allows for that kind of an improvement. They could do it on their own and finance it themselves. And we have a homeowner product called Clean Energy Advantage that would be able to take a loan in order to finance that solar panel.
Okay, a question just popped up. I don't want to put you on the spot. You and I were talking about a financial organization that was discussing doing the loans for the homeowners to retrofit like kitchen and HVAC and all that for the individuals. Did that come about? If they want to do some remodeling, so they want to replace all of the mechanicals inside the unit that they own. It was a particular credit union. You remember?
Yeah, so we've got, we've got the homeowner product, which is Clean Energy Advantage. We've got 2 lenders that offer that: NASA Federal Credit Union and Clean Energy Credit Union. In both, in the work that has to be undertaken, it does have to be energy efficiency work. So to the extent they wanted to finance the energy efficiency work with a loan, the Clean Energy Advantage loan could support that. Doing general home improvement would not be available through that product because it's intended to be just for energy efficiency, renewable energy improvements.
Is there anything out there that would help a homeowner? Say you've got an apartment that flipped to a condo, and now the piping is bad, and they're having to replace the copper piping in the units because they're leaking or what have you. Is there somebody out there that would assist them in financing that type of thing?
Well, I would say, partners, community banks like Sandy Spring do those kind of loans directly with common ownership community associations. They may not be at the same pricing as what you would find with the type of loan that we're supporting, because that would be a different type of loan for the community bank. But, community banks do make those loans to associations to do those kind of improvements.
No, this would be the individual homeowner.
The individual homeowner, well, again, someone like a NASA Federal Credit Union or other type of lender can provide, does have home improvement loans that homeowners can take out. Again, they would be, priced at that kind of a home improvement loan and not have the benefits that the energy efficiency loan that we have with them would have. But, those credit unions and others do make those kind of home improvement loans directly to homeowners for that kind of improvement.
All right, thanks. Have you done a project to reduce water usage and possible replacing the communal water to individual water meters? I can probably answer that one for them.
So we be able to support water improvements if they fall into that 30% above the energy efficiency. But first and foremost, we need to be supporting energy efficiency. And if those water improvements have a relationship to the energy efficiency, we can then look to support those. But straight up water, changing out water meters and things like that is not part of what our funding is able to support.
If they're talking about going from a master meter water to an individual sub-metering water, we are experimenting with a association right now to do a sub-metering all by wireless to see how it works. So stay tuned on that one. It's all from a company out of Texas, but it doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing. This is something we're doing to try and see if we can put a handle on this sub-metering thing on, a master meter that was an apartment that flipped over to a condo conversion. I had an energy audit performed by Pepco contractor 2 years ago, but this year I purchased an Energy Start washer dryer that the inspector had suggested, but Pepco refused to pay out rebates and told us that the promotion is not effective now and expired last year. Is that true?
That can happen with respect to Pepco incentives. They have limited budgets that they have on an annual basis to support those, and Pepco with the PSE, they have agreements in terms of what the next year will look like, and sometimes some of those rebates and incentives, fall off and they're no longer available. So they may be incentivizing a different type of a piece of equipment from year to year. So you do have to watch it on a year-to-year basis in terms of what their incentives and rebates are supporting, and it can change.
Okay, and I've got one more, then I'll let you close it out. So an HOA might be able to get help with solar. We're looking at it before, but the provider couldn't help us.
So the short answer is yes, an HOA can get help in terms of evaluating solar. Really, the first step to take a look at that is what kind of capacity you could potentially get on site, evaluating the size of the roof space that you have, what generation you can get from a solar system. and how that looks compared to what your consumption is in the building and how much you can offset with that. So we do work with contractors who can help with that kind of assessment. That's really the first step. And then moving forward from there, you need installers, et cetera, and figure out which financing method you want to use. But first step is certainly to evaluate the capacity that you have to put solar on rooftops.
Okay. I'll remind everybody that we should have everything set up by the end of the week to go in to the CCOC website. Simply just go to the Google browser, type in CCOC. You'll see the Department of Housing, Community Affairs, Common Ownership Community logo. Click it. Look to the upper left of the 8 icons there. It'll say training and webinars, and look for the GreenBank logo here for this webinar, and you'll see the MP4 as well as the PowerPoint presentation. And Tom, if you want to go ahead and close it out.
Sure. Yep. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Steve. This was really terrific. It was a nicely presented, and I think pretty clear, and it sounded and was looking like people were getting good information out of this. So thank you for participating in this and preparing for it. I know that's always a level of effort beyond what you need for your daily lives, but we thank you for that. And for those on the phone, and please feel free to reach out to us. Ask any question you want. We're here to provide help and service, and we can help you, understand the technical assistance side of it as well as the financing. But we really are a resource for common ownership communities across the county to reach out to and ask your questions, and we can help provide you, direction and or resources that you might need. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, thank you. And if everything works out, I will attempt to see if we can do a blast email to the attendees with the at least the information on how to contact everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Everyone have a good evening now.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Take care now. Thank you.